Happy Friday, everybody. I hope you've been having a good week with plenty of time for knitting and crochet. Today is February 28th, the end of February already. I can't believe this month has gone by so fast, and here we are almost in March. I'm Kathy. Welcome to Yarn with Heart here. This week will be an update about February's washcloths from the Year in Dishcloths book. Wondering, when you see these 5, will you have a favorite? And a completed blanket. I'm so happy that I finished one of my whips. And also about a few tips that I learned while making that style of blanket. Next week will be an update about Stash Down 2025. That's the amount of stash yarn that I used during February. Was it more yarn than I used in January? And how many projects did I complete so far this year? Also a reveal of gift knitting that I started for a family member. She has a birthday at the end of March, and I started making something special that she requested. And a progress update on my Pink Creations Make-Along shawl. First, a quick reminder that today is the final day to get emails to me for this month's Something New Make-Along. The slideshow will be this coming Monday on March 3rd, so please email your pictures to me by February 28th. Of course, I'm a bit flexible about that. If you forget and email your picture to me on the morning of March 1st, I will try my best to still include those on the slideshow as well. And now for my completed items and some hints and tips about my blanket. For anyone who is new, this blanket is one that I have been working on for a few months. It was a make-along that was hosted by Shannon from Art Junkie. Here, let me just move my tea out of the way here. Each member on her channel could pick a stitch and a color, and we were using scrap yarns for this. I used a 6mm hook for all my stripes and for the border. Now, eventually, we all started calling this our friendship blanket. Often, I donate blankets that I make, and this one I will be keeping as a reminder of good times with those friends. And it is like a cozy hug from them all each time I see it. Soon there will be a new make-along started on Shannon's membership lives. If you want to contact her and check about the details, I will put the Art Junkie channel information in the description box. So I completed this whip yesterday. The border that I chose, I'll show you here. There's the border. It is by Lindsay Dale. It is the border she uses on her arcade waffle blanket. The pattern is on Ravelry, and there is a link there to a video tutorial for the border. I'll show you here the blanket first. It's a big blanket. There we go. Okay. I can't get the whole blanket in all at one time because it is very big. Here we go. There. So those are all of the colors and the stitches. Here, I'll show you closer the stitch patterns. There's 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's another one. Another one. You could let me know in the comments if you recognize any of these stitches. And there's the final stitch there. So my tips for the blanket are, each time I started a new stripe, I did about 10 to 20 stitches to find out what the repeat would be, and that way I knew how many stitches I needed for my starting row. That is what the multiple would be. If I didn't have enough of a particular yarn, like for example here, I would add a few different ones from my scrap pile in the same color family and kind of color block that stripe. Now, to keep the double crochet row straighter, I started those ones with something called a stacked stitch, not a chain 3. You can search for tutorials about stacked crochet to see the technique. And there's lots of videos about that on YouTube. Some things that I learned and I'm going to use for future blankets that have a whole lot of stitch changes. I have learned that I really like less color change. Even for scrap blankets, maybe 1 to 5 colors in the overall blanket. And if a blanket has only 1 stitch throughout, then I will use every color. That said, I love this blanket so much because it reminds me of friendships and good times that we had during lives. You will see this blanket on the back of my couch next week, folded in half. And the nice thing is I can show one half of it for a while, and then after a time I can start to fold it another way and show another half of the colors. It's like having a bunch of blankets, maybe 3 blankets in one, because I can. One of the members of Shannon's group did something that I didn't think of. She put a small strip of a neutral color between each stripe, and that looked really good. I will try that next time that I'm doing a stripy blanket, so that's another tip. Since there is much less sewing, the stripy blankets are a nice option for those who would like to use scraps and don't do motifs because of all the sewing. So there we go. That's about my blanket. Now, next, an update about Laura's Wednesday Wipeout and the washcloths I've been making during February. One sec, I'll grab the book. I think, yeah, I have it here. Here's the book that we've been using. The book is called A Year of Dishcloths by Maggie Weldon, and Annie's Crochet published it. Each week on Sunday, I try to make one that Laura chose on the previous Wednesday slideshow, and these have all been in a springtime theme. The 5 that I have made recently are the Passion Flower. This one I substituted macrame yarn for the yellow center because I don't have netting in my stash, and that was something that pattern called for. Also, a bunny washcloth. And one called Wild Rose. One called Cornflower. And I substituted, rather than using the blue, I used a little of the same color that was in this one, so they kind of match a little bit. And finally, one called Shamrock. Now, this one I turned into a hot pad. It's actually to hide a bit of my first timer tapestry crochet on the back of the washcloth, because no one needs to see some of what's on the back of this one. So that's what I did. I just sort of crocheted a second piece the same size, and then did a border around the outside through just one loop. So there we go. That one's a hot pad rather than a dishcloth. All of these patterns, of course, are in this book, and you can pop over to Mad Mimi's Crochet and Farming on Wednesdays to see the slideshow and see what dishcloth Laura randomly picks for us to make next. Now, does anyone have a favorite of these 5? The spring ones have a lot of flowers, and for me, that's great. Also bunnies. So I'm having a lot of favorites this month. Of course, if you would like to find any patterns mentioned in my videos, there is information about how to find them in the description box below. And now for the chapter title for this week. This week the title is Grace. And I read what Carrie Bloomston said in the chapter. Very interesting. And I learned a lot. It was about the sweet spot between effort and no effort. Carrie shared great information and even some exercises about this topic. You know, when I buy a book and all of a sudden get to a chapter that speaks to me, it's worth the whole cost of the book. This for me, this chapter is that one. My added insight after I thought about what Carrie wrote, to me, these grace moments are those times that we all know and love when time seems to fly. Work doesn't feel like work, and you glance at the clock and wonder, where did the whole morning go? Because it feels like only an hour has passed. Or it becomes way past bedtime because I lost track of time. At least that's how it is for me. That happens when I'm crafting and when I'm doing things for Yarn with Heart. Time sometimes melts away in a good way. Oh, and if you would ever want to find a copy of this book, The Little Spark, 30 Ways to Ignite Your Creativity, I have tried to find a few places where the book is sold. For me, this book is providing a good jumping off point for my own thoughts. I purchased at Artisanthropy. They don't have it in stock there anymore, though. I typed a few places in the description box of where you can find a copy if you would like. There are ebooks and paperbacks available. So thank you everyone so much for being here, for sharing your comments and leaving your thumbs. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your crochet, enjoy your knitting, and I hope to see you on Monday for the slideshow.